Alright, welcome to the video where I watch Robin Hood, Robot of Sherwood, and I come up with theories on the fly. Okay, so Clara's like, hey, you're really heroic, and the Doctor's like, I'm just passing the time. And it's like, I used to think that was just a glib remark, but I think he's actually telling the truth. You know, he's been like the good guy of the universe, just as a way of passing the time. It's a sort of LARPing role, you know. It's like, I have chosen chaotic good, or whatever it is. I don't know. And this is just him LARPing, just like the Children are doing. The Children are the deepest reflection of the Doctor. They are the mirror of the Doctor. More than anything else, the Children LARPing, that is the Doctor reflected. Alright, the Doctor's just bragging about how some girls from this planet can hold their drink and fracture 15 different levels of reality simultaneously. And obviously that means nothing to a human, but the Doctor is a many more dimensional being than we are. The Doctor lives in so many more dimensions, and perhaps different beings are able to just exist in different amounts of dimensions. But yeah, the Doctor is just LARPing the hell out of this. Maybe he's even like the games master, dungeon master, I don't know what they're called, but yeah. You know, making sure the game isn't lost, but keeping up the challenge. He's there to make a playground for everyone. He's LARPing. The Doctor's operating on so many more levels to us. Time is just one of a plethora of things. The Doctor's choosing based on, like, most exciting drama, as much as he is selecting just, you know, who lives and who dies. Matt Smith, distraught when Amy and Rory disappear in their final episode. Like, that's like me crying over the end of Disc 1 on Final Fantasy VII, you know? They are very invested in this game that they are curating. The Children are the ultimate mirror reflections of the Doctor. Everything you can say about them is what you can say about the Doctor. Down to the Doctor's gender experimentation, which is just taking on different roles, and how the Children just churn through that murderously. That's like a deep reflection of who the Doctor is, you know? It says so much about who they are fundamentally. The Children are not just any Doctor Who baddies. They are the deepest exploration of the Doctor, the most brutal mirror ever held up. This is who the Doctor truly is. Alright, so in my Planet of Evil Part 1 video, I talked about how the Doctor, soon after the first story or two, came upon a situation where the TARDIS lock was in danger, because the TARDIS lock had 20 ways of putting the key in, but all but one of them would make it explode. So that was a bit of a flaw when it came to having humans in the TARDIS. Now that they're travelling with lots of people who aren't, you know, Susan, they're just like, oh, I need to change that. And in doing so, they sort of weaken the TARDIS's exterior defences. And then you see this arrow here from Robin Hood leaves a hole in the TARDIS, and the Doctor's looking at it like a bit of flimsiness is better than the alternative where the lock just will destroy itself. I had to take down the defences of the exterior at least a bit. And he's just enjoying the fact that it's like, that's kind of fun that an arrow would do this much damage, if a bit concerning. But, you know, trade-offs must be made, because now a TARDIS is being piloted by people who are not super experienced with this. Presumably Gallifrey only gives you like a TARDIS if you're super experienced and stuff, and trained. Right, so Robin Hood threatens them with a sword, and Clara's not like, that he's threatening us with a sword. Like, she just looks from the Doctor to Robin Hood just like, oh my god, this is gonna be amazing. I've seen the Doctor deal with stuff like this. I bet he's gonna use the spoon, isn't he? I love it when he uses the spoon. I'm getting a seat. See that? She's just like, let me get a nice spot to just watch. This is my evening's entertainment. This is what I'm here for. She loves the LARPing.
I have no sword. I don't need a sword.
Like, he's being so dramatic and, like, just like, I'm just LARPing this. This is so silly. I am in complete control. I am controlling this in dimensions you aren't even aware of. You don't even know the dimension you have thoughts on.
Because I am the doctor.
The way he's like, I am the doctor. And it's just like, this is the Doctor unmasked.
Because I am the doctor.
Yeah, and he's just like, because he's so mocking. He's not the Doctor. He's the LARPer. And if you're wondering, look what he's doing. He's flipping them off. He's just like, I am the Doctor. He's flipping them off. I bet there's maximum evidence that his true name, the one that people whisper in his ear, and he's like, oh my god, you know my true name. It's not the Doctor. His true name is the Larper. That's how, you know, Lady Paintforth, or whatever she is in Silver Nemesis, is like, I know who you are. Like, it's very simple. But yeah, the flipping off of this moment is just incredible. It's so disrespectful. He's just like, I'm the Doctor, ah ha ha, yeah, dobber. And he's just like, I'm the Doctor, get it confused. I'm actually the LARPer. I am the Dungeon Master. That's who he is. He's the Dungeon Master. He's not the LARPer. He's the Dungeon Master. He's mocking all of us. He's just passing time. This is just what he finds fun. This middle finger is symbolic of how little regard he has for us. Look at that. This is the Doctor exposed at their rawest, flipping us off with contempt as they LARP about the place, fighting with a spoon because they've got so many experience points that they've leveled up their spoon skills so much that they can just do ridiculous battles like a spoon versus a sword and win because they're just really high leveled. It's bonkers. It's the disrespect. Look at that, just flipping him off. Blink and you miss it. But it's undeniably there. Okay, so Clara says, you're amazing, with some surprise. So I don't think the Doctor gets into sword fights much. But she just senses that the Doctor's going to have the fun like this in the way that he had fun fighting the guy trying to assassinate him in the Romans. Because he is just a god fighting a mortal. He is working on so many different dimensions. He can defeat us all in combat if he wants. We are such limited dimensional beings. I love how Clara just knows to just grab a seat and watch. Hilarious. She's definitely in on the LARPing. Alright, so I have theories that the Doctors are various animals, or whatnot. Like, the Ninth Doctor is a chicken, possibly 3 chickens in a trench coat, for example. And, oh my god, of course, they say it's, the Doctor's runs like a penguin with his arse on fire, you know? So, that's how the Doctor runs, because the Doctor is a penguin. Because I was just thinking here, like, the way he falls is exactly like a bird would fall. And if he's a penguin, that explains why we never see him fly. Oh my god, and that's why when he had ultimate power, he became able to fly, because that's what all penguins want to be able to do, but they can't, even though they're birds. So look, when he falls, he immediately is like, I will fly out of this. Watch. Robin pushes. Let's look at that a bit closer. Like, he flaps those wings. His instinctive response is to flap his wings. What more can I say? The 12th Doctor is a penguin. A penguin who really wishes that they could fly. Like, it must be frustrating being able to operate in all those different dimensions, but also being so rooted to this, like, our dimensions, and not being able to fly when, like, they can pretty much fly in the other dimensions or something. I don't know, there's like some frustrating aspect of our dimensions in particular. Perhaps. Alright, so my favourite theory of mine, which is that the Doctor mind melds by touch, at least the most enriching theory of mine. Perhaps the Doctor mind melding by touch is a sort of them being in many more dimensional being than we are, and by touching us they sort of bring us into the more dimensions, extra dimensions that the Doctor is engaged in. And that's how the mind meld works. It's on some dimensional level that we barely have access to, although there are psychic humans. So, like, I guess, like, all humans could, if they just knew how to think right, but we're so blinkered that we can't exist on these multi-dimensions, that we do exist just unknowingly. Maybe even our unconscious controls it, whereas the Doctor is able to consciously control it. You know, everyone being like, do you get the sense that we're being watched? You know, that only makes sense if they... shit, I forgot what I was saying.
Quickest way to find out anybody's plans. Get yourself captured.
This is the Doctor just being like, yeah, I'm just speedrunning this stuff. I'm used to this kind of dungeon crawling. Let's just skip to the good bit, right? This is a very good player on this LARPing game. The Childer, the Doctor's true reflection. The dark reflection of the LARPing Doctor. Not just the LARPing Doctor, but the Dungeon Master Doctor. Okay, so Ross came up with the idea of a Time Lord called the Bavara. And given how much Robin Hood is getting on the tits of the Doctor, it makes me wonder if Robin Hood is an incarnation of the Bavara. That's my thinking. He is doing it for the love of the sport of it. He's in deep cover to detonate some deep bother. One of the great enemies of the Doctor. The Botherer is another one of those Time Lords, along with the Master. When Tennant's like... I mean, yeah, sure, it's good that Jacoby is secretly a Time Lord, but, you know, it also... It depends which Time Lord, because it could be a bad one. And, you know, I think the Botherer is definitely, like, heavily on the Doctor's mind when it comes to... Like, it's not just the Master that the Doctor's scared of. If the Master survived, the Doctor would be so hyped. The Doctor in that moment is scared that it's the Botherer. The Doctor in that scene is like, yeah, it depends which one. If it's the Master, holy hell, I love the Master, we're dating. We are in love. But what if it's the Botherer? That's a much worse option. Like, Doctor Who is fan fiction. Like, that's what makes Doctor Who different and special. Doctor Who is fan fiction of so many things from a very British perspective. It's the fan fiction aspect which is what's magical about it. You know, we get to just play up the Robin Hood setting and do it really seriously. And then we'll do something completely different next time, you know. Okay, this is Ross's Time Lord invention, the Botherer. Because Robin Hood's like, I got a plan. You pretend like you're in horrible pain and stuff, and the Doctor's like, nah, I'm not doing that. And the Botherer is just like, well, if you're really going to make me do it, I'm going to do it in the most annoying way I possibly can.
Fine, if you want something, do it.
Like, isn't that hilarious? Oh my god, the way he just like suddenly like goes from that to just... What does he say at this point? Just... I love it. The botherer is just bothering. And the Doctor getting on Robin Hood's tits by just being like, oh, he's a bundle of nerves, he's pissing himself. He's such a little scaredy cat. I think that's the botherer experiencing a love language that he's never had reciprocated to him. He bothers people because he believes that's what is best for people. That bothering is the thing we need even if we don't want it. You know, it's what's good for us. And the true expression of love is to bother and be bothered. And the Doctor is getting in on it hardcore right now. And he is just connecting with the Doctor in a way that the botherer never has before. They've always been searching for someone to bother and be bothered by. He is in love. The Doctor has a relationship with both of these Time Lords, the botherer and the Master. So what other... Like, the Rani hinted that they dated at some point. So, like... maybe, like, everyone's... The Doctor with, like, numerous Time Lords. They're all in situationships. I know this is a program for children, and I'm sorry, but sometimes things are quite dirty. And the botherer just making really turned on sounds.
Like some tiny, shivering little mouse. Oh God, I think he soiled himself.
This is an orgasm face right now. Maybe he's like being edged at this moment.
God, I think he soiled himself.
And then the Doctor just tips him over the edge.
And what happened to the reward?
And the botherer is just in sexual ecstasy. Like, look at that. Robin Hood just... The botherer, like, listens to what the Doctor's saying and is enjoying the situation for what it is. He's, like, seeing stuff through the Doctor's eyes, but he's also got the Doctor seeing through his eyes. The botherer and the Doctor are both connecting with what each other is. And this connection with the Doctor and how into the LARPing the Doctor is. He, like, listens to the Doctor for a moment and then goes into, like, so many orgasms.
Vital message. The prince...
Like, oh, that orgasm cuts deep. When the botherer's like, you told him I'd soiled myself.
It's getting into character.
And the Doctor's like, lol, you did? That's pretty funny. That's getting into character. And he just looks away, just like, wait, this is how everyone experiences me. I've done this all wrong. Is this when the botherer stops being the botherer? I think just like the Master, the botherer just regresses back to their core form, because ultimately at their core they are the botherer. Even if it causes so much destruction for themselves, they cannot help who they ultimately are at their very core. The botherer. But at this moment, is he just questioning everything? I've been bothering, but, you know, he immediately regresses from that moment of, like, wondering. Because the Doctor's like, oh, I'll get the keys. And he's like, oh, I could do something really annoying here. And he just, like, shuggles his leg and foot in front of Capaldi's, or whatever, in a way, just, like, shunting around with Capaldi's so that it falls down the drain. This is a ploy by the botherer. He just cannot help himself bothering the Doctor, inconveniencing, annoying our hero. And this to him is a romance. What is it to the Doctor? I think it is also some sort of romance. There's something there. The botherer and the Doctor. Two sweethearts on the level of the Doctor and the Master. The botherer and the Master are both in wild relationships with the Doctor. It is very funny and transformative watching this scene, as if the botherer is intentionally just thwarting the Doctor being able to just get the keys. Oh, beautiful. So beautiful. they're both craning their necks forward, like they're edging this kiss that they're not consummating yet. Presumably at some point in this episode they will actually kiss. Or maybe not, maybe they're just, kiss edging people over time. I don't know. But the Botherer and the Doctor, they have kissing on their mind right now. Craning out, being like, mwah, mwah, mwah. And loving that tension. Here the Botherer saves Clara from the water. And here we see that, unlike the Master, the Botherer does respect life. Indulges in compassion. They're not a bad person, they just like to bother people. That's how they connect. And no one else connects with them like that, apart from the Doctor, who's starting to at the moment. That's why they've saved Clara. It is a character moment. They are not the Master. Alright, so the Doctor's just like, I'm already free, I don't have handcuffs, and then he grabs a reflective object. And it reflects the laser. So, why does he, put his hands up like that? He needed to grab the shiny thing which was down here before it shot him, but he reached up here just doing a sort of, whee! That's like doing no hands on a bike, it's cooler. You just feel cool just going without hands, and it's dangerous. But it's also such a thrill, and I don't do it anymore because, I don't want to push my luck. But, when I was younger, I did it, and that was really fun, and the Doctor's doing a similar thing here. It's just like, no handsies, because he exists in different dimensions to us. The Doctor does this, and humans can't, because the Doctor is many more dimensional than we are. Alright, you can't tell me that the Sheriff of Nottingham, looking at a map and just putting pins in it, or writing on it, just being like, mine! That one's mine, that one's mine, that one's mine. This is a show doing fan fiction, because it's fan fiction of everything, and the Sheriff of Nottingham just going, mine, 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 is such a goofy, nonsense, silly thing. But it's reveling, I always loved parodies of stuff when I was a kid, I didn't get to see 15s and 18s. So when I saw parodies of stuff, they were so cool. And then when I actually got to see the actual things, I'm like, oh, this wasn't as cool as the parodies. The parodies of action movies always have the best one-liners. Parodies are the best. Doctor Who is the best. Doctor Who is just fanfiction, it's parody. It's just reveling in a love of the conventions and just the love of storytelling. I love the idea that, he calls the Doctor Turbulence. He's like, who will read me of this turbulence, Doctor? And, surely they must have done it because of the combination of presumably accurate use of the word, which I've never heard this used before, combined with the skated bro use of turbulent meaning totally radical, I just love it, it's just a reveling, as if everything it's dealing with is fan fiction. The language of the time is doing fan fiction of Robin Hood. Sheriff's like, the peasants will be revolting, and the Doctor's like, I rather think you're the revolting person around here. And he's like, shit, I'm bantering, that's so annoying. You can't tell me Robin Hood is not the Botherer. Oh my god, and it's the ultimate bother that Robin Hood actually exists. Robin Hood doesn't exist. This is just the Botherer, LARPing as Robin Hood. So Robin Hood was a Time Lord. The Botherer LARPing as Robin Hood, influencing the Doctor to do banter, and it annoys him so much. The Botherer is getting in his head. This is why the Doctor can never love anyone, I bet that. They can never be intimate with someone, because they are traumatized by the idea that it could be the Botherer. They're more into the Botherer than they want to admit, but it's like a part of their unconscious shadow that they cannot accept.
Listen to me.
He's so annoyed when he's like, I'm bantering, no! This is bothering me so much. And yeah, just the entire bothering thing of just Robin Hood does exist, and the Doctor's like, no, they don't. And they don't. The Doctor's right, and it's so confusing that they do, because they don't. It's like the Master being Rasputin, you know? It's the exact same kind of thing. These people never existed. They were just Larpers. All the heroes of history are just LARPing aliens and gods. You know, the truth of the human race isn't that we're like bold and run into danger and we're so heroic, like most of the Doctor's companions. Nah, we're like the Jodie companions. We're like the Davison companions, you know? We're just people. We're like Hartnell companions. Like, we are just people. But the Jodie companions in particular, you know? Okay, what if the Botherer is the Sheriff of Nottingham? Perhaps the Sheriff of Nottingham is the Botherer and Robin Hood is the Botherer. And this is a multi-Botherer story as they play different roles in a trap for the Doctor, a really annoying trap. Look, think about it. This guy is the Botherer because he says, I sincerely hope so.
Hope so?
Or I wouldn't be bothering. He is the Botherer. I mean, do you need more evidence? The Botherer does exist. It's not just a great name for a potential Time Lord. They exist already. We just haven't unearthed them. Until me. You need me. So the Doctor says, what you're doing will alter the course of history. And he says, I sincerely hope so, otherwise I wouldn't be bothering. So, like, he is the Botherer, but also... Oh, because the Botherer is in relationship with the Time Meddler, and the Time Meddler... Is this the Time Meddler who's been influenced by the Botherer to enter a more bothering-y life? It could be. Or is it the Botherer who's been so influenced by their love for the Time Meddler that they're just hatching plans to alter the course of history? And if the Botherer and the Time Meddler are in love, does it not make sense that the Time Meddler is in this story too? What exactly is the Time Meddler's relationship with the Doctor? I don't think the Time Meddler's in a relationship with the Doctor. You know, the Time Meddler is basically the Doctor, a mirror reflection of who the Doctor is, and the Doctor hates that. You know, how do you trust someone who looks out of your own eyes at you? Oh my god, the Botherer's just got this ultimate pincer movement where the Doctor's like, Robin Hood's the opiate of the masses. And this guy's like, that would be a terrible idea. Why would I create my own enemy? And the Doctor's just like, it's such cognitive dissonance because he knows in his gut that they are responsible.
What sense would that? That would be terrible.
He's like, yeah. You know when Morpheus is like, I stand here before you now, truthfully, unafraid. Why? And he's just like suddenly questioning everything. You know, Morpheus is just like, why am I standing in front of the entirety of Zion just about to tell them that they're all about to die? And I'm not afraid of the panic. This is bonkers. And he shouts out why. Because he just loses control. He loses his inhibitions just for one moment.
I stand here before you now, truthfully, unafraid. Why?
And yeah, the cognitive dissonance on the Doctor's face as he's like, yes, that does logically make sense that it would be ridiculous to create your own enemy, which means that the Sheriff of Nottingham and Robin Hood are definitely in cahoots. Are they the Time Meddler and the Botherer? Are they the Botherer and their disciples? What would the Botherer's disciples be called? Leave the answer in the comments. And they're not the Botherer's followers. They're the Botherer's lovers. This is their romance, is bothering. They've gone far beyond the physical, you know. They don't have physical sex. They just bother each other to ultimate pleasure. The fuck am I talking about? Okay, so Robin Hood and the sheriff are in cahoots. And Robin throws a dagger at the sheriff, and the sheriff just deflects it. But we've already seen that, like, the same trick being used by the Doctor when he shoots the arrows onto the targets, but just has a homing thing for it. These guys just have a similar thing. They're Time Lords. They've got the same kind of technology. Like, it's dramatic and you believe it, but actually it's just, you know, he's like, haha, this is going to be a showdown, but wait, that's why he's a robot, of course. He is a robot, he is a creation of the Botherer. I imagine the fact that they even have a cross there is somehow getting on the Doctor's tits. Does the Doctor hate Christianity? And these crosses are just to make the Doctor think, oh no, this is very Christianish. This is very evocative of Christian shit. I hate Christianity. Fascinating. Okay, let's think about it. This episode is called Robot of Sherwood, not Robots. Therefore, this guy who is a robot, is established later, he's a robot. The Sheriff of Nottingham is what this is about. So he is absolutely a creation of the Botherer. He is an extension of the Botherer's will. So this battle is a battle between the Botherer, who is Robin Hood, and the Botherer's robot, who is the Sheriff of Nottingham. And you'd think that the Botherer would find a way of keeping the Sheriff alive. He wouldn't actually be going for the kill. But he does. And the way he does it is by aligning himself, like he pulls the move off that the Doctor does and knocks the Sheriff into lava, therefore moving his allegiance away from the Sheriff of Nottingham and all the interference that implies. And he's now moving his allegiance to the Doctor by pulling off the Doctor's move and getting rid of the Sheriff. So the Sheriff identifies as half man, half engine, so he's basically half man, half machine. Which means that the Botherer's acolytes are like the Black Riders in Doctor Who. The Dark Riders were corrupted men, and likewise he's a corrupted man. You know, like, the Botherer's acolytes. They were men once. Apart from maybe he was Time Lord once. Nah, I don't think so. I think he was a man corrupted by the multi-dimensional allure of the Botherer. You know, a regular human could not resist the Botherer. They have such a hypnotic pull to them. Maybe that's why Titanium says, yeah, you inspire hope, Doctor, because their powers are amplified. You know, just like the Master has the hypnotism that you can resist. The Master has, like, the power to be more of the Master over you. The Botherer has the power to be more of a bother to you. You know, hence how this Robin Hood thing just happened to be something that Capaldi was like, no, he doesn't exist, and we're here to prove it. And, like, maybe the Botherer couldn't have known about that, but because they are the Botherer, they have a magnetism towards bothering that just makes the world align for bothering. Likewise with the Doctor, which is why the world is ultimately good. Like, the universe, good does prevail, and that's because of the Doctor and their magnetic influence on others. You know, which is why Tune says you inspire hope, and that can be troublesome. Like, the Doctor is literally an embodiment of being the Doctor of the universe. They magnetically make that happen. They are beings beyond our comprehension. You know, I didn't like the idea of interpreting the Doctor as a godly being either. But you gotta follow the evidence. And ultimately that's the direction they're going, so we need to take time to actually appreciate, you know, okay, so let's stop interpreting them as human. We've explored that as much as we can. Let's explore them as beings beyond our ken. You know, killing the Botherer's creations is kind of like destroying the One Ring, you know? We must cast it into the fire from whence it came, and it's an arduous journey because they're so annoying. And of course the Botherer knows to do this, as his allegiance turns to the Doctor. Alright, so Robin's like, alright, whoever the Doctor is, he's a very lucky man. And Clara says Marion is very lucky too. Now the Botherer doesn't actually have much of a connection at all with Marion. They're just one of their creations. So they respond like, what? Oh, yeah, Marion. Nah, I don't think it's gonna work out between us. Like, fear not. Like, just the way he just like, she's like, Marion, and he's just like,
Marion is very lucky too.
who is that? Oh yeah, I love it. Like, I love this episode, and also, the Christmas special after it, last Christmas. Just their use of Robin Hood and Santa as real people and reflections of the Doctor. Really fun and interesting, and like, it is peak Doctor Who to have these fictional heroes be real and, you know, reflections of the Doctor. That's... I love Series 8 so much. And the finale for Series 8 is so much worse than Wishworld and the Reality War, which are peak television. Goodbye. God, this way it wraps up is just so amazing, you know. He's like, hey, Doctor, you say you're not a hero, but I'm not a hero too, but if we keep pretending, if we keep playing the role of hero, maybe others will be heroes in our name too. And then he's like, oh, Doctor, I'm just as real as you are. And it's just such, it's a brilliant meta joke, you know, because he's not real and the Doctor isn't real. I don't know if the Robin Hood's actually real. I just assume that the Doctor was actually right about him not being real. Did Robin Hood exist? Anyway, the point being, he's like, I'm just as real as you are, and despite it being a story about Robin Hood being real, you know, it seems to be very much implying that Robin Hood wasn't real, in a weird way. So like when he's like, I'm just as real as you are, it's excellent meta humour, it's so sublime. It's, I don't know, it's delicious television. Like, who else would make a joke like that? Utter sincerity with a fanfiction brain. Ah, it's beautiful. You know, Rick and Morty's just too knowing and winking to the audience. This meta humour is a different calibre. Yeah, the I'm just as real as you are line. Peak. Just peak. Hilarious.
I admit it. You like him.
Oh my god. So Clara being like, you like is like, you like the Botherer. And the Doctor's like, yeah, well, I'm leaving him a present, and it's a Maid Marian who is going to be really annoying for the Botherer to deal with, because they clearly just forgot about Maid Marian. They're not important to the Doctor, and now they're not important to the Botherer, so now the Botherer just has to deal with the awkwardness. It's annoying, you know, just like, geez, yeah, sorry, you don't actually mean anything to me. The Doctor leaves him a present because he likes the Botherer, even though he doesn't realise it's the Botherer. That's the spice of the Doctor, just Time Lord's lives. They appear in each other's lives. Like, when they fall in love, they start dipping into each other's pasts. And, you know, just having adventures with them without them knowing that it was them. And then they can reminisce on all these things and be like, oh, that was me before. You know, you fell in love with me. This is absolutely how the Doctor and the Master interact. You know, they just drop into each other's timelines without each other knowing who they are. I guess the Doctor doesn't really do that, but the Master does that to the Doctor. I guess there's like the penetrated and the penetrator of timelines. That's the sort of dynamic that there is. Oh, that's sweet. He is actually looking at a picture of her. Maybe the Botherer did care about Maid Marian and I just misinterpreted this. Or was he just looking at that being like, I made this whole pendant thing and I didn't even get to use it and show it to the Doctor. God damn it, I forgot. the botherer's a forgetful guy, you know? And she's there and he's like, oh, what the fuck?
I found you at last.
Like, is this genuine? When he's like, Marion, I mean, that's a mind melding. Timelord's mind meld by touch. He's touching her neck and under her head. And kissing would be the ultimate mind meld. It would, wouldn't it? And we never quite identified who the fucking time meddler is in this. It must be Marion. This is the botherer and the time meddler kissing. Okay, I'm just editing this video and I'm realizing that if kissing is the ultimate mind meld, then perhaps Matt Smith kissing Jenny, you know, giving her her first on-screen kiss, and it's just sexual assault. What if it's not? What if he's downloading the information that she's got right then and there? He just, like, it doesn't make it okay necessarily, but it at least puts a less grim interpretation on what's happening. It's to download information about the situation or something, I don't know. But yeah, hopefully that makes it better, cause god damn. Alright, see ya. I've linked in my Instagram bio and my YouTube videos a Palestinian charity you can donate to if you want to support me. Also, you can help me with subtitles, and that would be really helpful and make my videos more accessible. Just saying.